Part 1. The Beginning. Discovering the hidden secret. Have you ever felt like you didn't truly belong in crowded religious gatherings? You stood in a church, hearing the same familiar words repeated again and again. Yet deep inside your soul, there was a whisper that never went silent. There's still something missing. There's a truth I haven't been told. If you have ever felt that way, you are not alone. In fact, it may be the very sign that you were meant for something else, for a different circle, one so small and hidden that only a few souls across 2,000 years were ever allowed to enter. You are not who you think you are. And even Jesus, the man history calls the Christ, was not only what the world has painted him to be. He carried two faces. Before the crowds, he was the gentle teacher, using safe parables about seeds and vineyards, stories simple enough to comfort people who were not ready for the raw truth. But when the night fell, when the half-hearted seekers had gone home, and only a handful of faithful souls remained, his other face appeared, the initiator, the one who dared to whisper secrets so explosive they could have cost him his life on the spot. Picture it. Jerusalem lies under a blanket of stars. The roads once filled with noise and miracle seekers are now quiet. The people who came for bread and healing have gone back to their ordinary lives. But 12 remain, sitting around the dying fire. Their faces are not the polished, saintly portraits you see in stained glass. No, these are rough faces, weathered fishermen smelling of sweat and fish, a despised tax collector, women who broke religious rules, doubters, and broken-hearted seekers. Yet in the eyes of Jesus, these flawed souls were chosen. His gaze burned with a fire not of this world, and his voice dropped to a whisper. To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not. In that moment, a line was drawn, not between the holy and the unholy, not between the religious elite and the ordinary. If holiness were measured by rituals, the priests would have been first in line. If it were about memorizing scripture, the scholars would have qualified. But no, it was the outcasts, the overlooked, the imperfect who were chosen to hear the dangerous truth. And that's the same reason why you are here now. If you are still listening, it means there is a flame in you, a flame that refuses to be satisfied with half-truths. Perhaps you have walked out of a church service feeling strangely empty. Perhaps you felt like a stranger in every religious system you tried. But that loneliness, that restlessness, it is not a curse. It is your invitation. It is the sign that you are not meant for the crowd. You are one of the flame bearers. Stop and ask yourself, why have you never been satisfied with surface answers? Why does your soul ache for something deeper, something dangerous? Why do you feel you were not born merely to listen, but to know? Because you were designed for truth, and truth is never safe. Truth will shatter every cage, and that's what makes you dangerous. Dangerous to the systems built on control. Dangerous to the structures that thrive on your fear. Dangerous to the illusion that you must always remain dependent on an authority outside yourself. Because once a soul awakens, it no longer needs a gatekeeper. It walks straight into the presence of God. Do you see now? This is not just another teaching. This is an invitation to step into a path both perilous and glorious. A path Jesus opened when he whispered what could never be written in public scrolls. Words hidden for 2,000 years, not because they weren't real, but because the world wasn't ready. And you, right now, may be ready. Close your eyes for just 5 seconds. Imagine yourself in that dimly lit room, the fire crackling low, the faces of 12 ordinary, broken people glowing in its light. And then imagine Jesus leaning toward you, lowering his voice so that only you can hear, "To you it has been given." Would you dare to listen? Would you dare to receive a truth so powerful it could overturn everything you thought you knew about God, about yourself, about life itself? This is your beginning. This is your threshold moment. You have left the crowd. You have entered the circle. And if you are still here, it means you are ready to hear what comes next. Part 2. The private moment with the disciples. Let me ask you, if one night you were given the chance to sit beside a fire with Jesus himself, not in front of thousands, not in the solemnity of a grand temple, but in a small hidden circle, what would he say to you? Would he repeat the safe parables about seeds and vineyards? Or would he peel back every veil and whisper to you the truth the world could not handle? Picture this scene. Jerusalem has fallen asleep under the night sky. The stone streets that were noisy by day are now silent, the footsteps of the crowds long gone. Those who had come seeking miracles, hoping for healing, for bread, have returned home. The noise has faded. The masses are gone. But 12 remain. They are not stronger than the rest. They are not more righteous. In fact, they are painfully ordinary, even flawed, fishermen with rough hands, a tax collector despised by society, a woman branded as a sinner, doubters, betrayers, broken souls. Yet these are the ones Jesus chose to remain with him. Around the flickering firelight, their faces do not resemble the polished saints we see in paintings. They smell of sweat, of fish, of dust and desperation. But they are about to hear something that would change everything. Jesus sits in silence for a long moment. Then he looks at each face, not with condemnation, but with eyes that see every wound, every fear, every secret shame. And finally, he speaks in a whisper. To you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not. Stop here. Let that sink in. Why them? Why not everyone? Why not proclaim it to the entire crowd? If the kingdom of heaven was good news, why not shout it from the rooftops? The answer is sobering. Not everyone was ready. To the multitudes, he had to speak in safe language parables, simple stories they could swallow without resistance. Tales of seeds falling on good soil, of lamps placed on a stand, of vineyards and harvests. Enough to spark hope, but not enough to provoke outrage. But when night fell, and only the inner circle remained, he dropped the veil. The dangerous truths came out, truths that, if spoken publicly, would have brought his execution immediately. Now imagine being one of those disciples by the fire. You are not a saint. You are flawed, weary, confused. And yet Jesus looks at you, not the priests, not the scholars, not the perfect, and he says that you have been chosen to know the mysteries. Can you feel the trembling mix of fear and awe? The sense of unworthiness, yet the undeniable spark of destiny? This is where your pain meets your hope. Maybe you have sat through countless religious services, but left feeling empty. Maybe you have prayed prayers that seemed to hit the ceiling and fall back down. Maybe you've walked away thinking, perhaps I'm not good enough. Perhaps I lack faith. But what if the very hunger you feel, the dissatisfaction that never leaves you, is the proof that you are chosen for more? Jesus never picked the flawless. He picked the ones still bleeding, because in their cracks the light could enter. His inner circle wasn't a hall of saints, it was a gathering of seekers. And seeking was the only qualification. Think back to a moment in your own life when everything fell apart. A loss, a betrayal, a diagnosis, a dream shattered. Do you remember how, even in that darkness, a small voice inside you whispered, "There has to be more than this"? That whisper is what brought you here. The same whisper that kept 12 broken people by the fire 2,000 years ago has kept you listening to these words now. And that is why Jesus said, "To you it has been given," not because you are perfect, not because you memorized enough scriptures, but because you never stopped longing. That night, when only the circle remained, the veil began to lift. No more parables. No more safe metaphors. Just the truth, naked, raw, dangerous. A truth hidden for 2 millennia, not because it was lost, but because the world was not ready. But you, if you are still here, are ready. This is not just history to be read and forgotten. This is a living moment, replaying itself right now. As you listen, you are in that room. You are the 13th figure by the fire. And Jesus leans toward you, eyes burning with otherworldly fire, and whispers, "To you it has been given." The only question left is, will you dare to hear what he is about to say next? Part 3. The first secret, the kingdom of God is within. Have you ever been told that the kingdom of heaven is a reward waiting for you after death? A distant place you can only hope to enter if you live well enough, long enough, holy enough? If you grew up hearing that, then prepare yourself, because the truth Jesus whispered to his inner circle on a quiet night shattered every assumption people held about God and eternity. When the fire burned low and the night pressed in, he leaned closer and spoke words so simple, yet so earth-shaking. The kingdom of God has not come with observation. People will not say, "Look, here it is," or "There it is." For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. Let that sentence fall deep into you. Not someday, not somewhere else, not a prize waiting beyond the stars, but here, now, inside you. Can you feel the shock? For centuries, religion had built its power on the idea that heaven was far away, something to strive for, something to fear losing, something controlled by priests and rituals. But Jesus looked at ordinary, broken people and told them the most dangerous truth of all. You don't have to wait. You don't have to earn it. The kingdom is already alive within you. This was the first secret, and it was the most threatening one. Pause for a moment. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Breathe slowly and notice the vast space that exists beneath your busy thoughts. That space, silent, alive, aware, is what he was pointing to. It is not a metaphor. It is not poetic language. It is a living reality available to you right now. In Aramaic, the word Jesus used, Malka, didn't just mean kingdom. It also meant reign, sovereignty, rulership. In other words, he wasn't simply saying, heaven is inside you. He was declaring divine sovereignty, infinite power. The very reign of God flows within you right now. Do you see why the authorities feared him? If the crowds believed this secret, why would they keep paying temple taxes? Why would they need priests to act as gatekeepers? Why would they look to stone walls and golden shrines when the true sanctuary pulsed inside their own bodies? The entire system of control would collapse in an instant. That's why these words were never spoken to the multitudes. To the crowd, Jesus used safe language. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. But to his inner circle, he tore off the veil. You already carry it. The reign of God is within you. Can you feel the weight of that? How many years have you lived thinking you weren't enough? That you had to try harder, behave better, pray longer before God might consider you worthy? But the secret Jesus whispered is this: you are never lacking. The flame has been burning in you since your first breath. You don't need to achieve it. You only need to remember it. Perhaps you're wondering, but how do I experience this kingdom within me? The answer is astonishingly simple. Be still. Step behind the noise of your mind. Close your eyes for a moment and notice the awareness watching even your thoughts. That spaciousness, that silent, unshakable presence, that is the kingdom. You just touched what Jesus risked his life to reveal, and this is why he said, "You will do greater works than I have done." Not because his followers had magic tricks, but because once you touch the kingdom inside, you unlock an infinite creative force. What Jesus embodied in one lifetime, his awakened circle would carry across the world. Think about your own life. How many times have you felt abandoned by God in the midst of loss, betrayal, sickness, or grief? How many times did you cry out, "Where are you?" And yet, the secret says, he was never absent. The kingdom was never out there. It has always been pulsing inside you, waiting for you to notice. This isn't theory. This isn't theology. This is the most practical truth you will ever hear. You already carry the presence you are seeking. You already house the sovereignty of God. And here's the liberation hidden in that truth. Once you realize the kingdom is within, no one can control you with fear anymore. No one can hold your soul hostage with promises of heaven or threats of hell. You become free because you recognize the source was in you all along. The question is, will you dare to believe it? Not just for others, not just for saints, but for yourself. Part 4. The secret of the body as a living temple. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you looked in the mirror and felt ashamed of your body? Perhaps when illness left you weary, when age carved lines across your face, or when scars from the past reminded you of brokenness. For centuries, millions have been taught that the body is a burden, a weak, sinful shell holding the soul captive. But imagine the shock when Jesus leaned close to his inner circle and whispered a truth so dangerous it could have cost him his life. "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it again." The crowds were outraged. They thought he was insulting Herod's magnificent temple, the pride of an entire nation, one of the wonders of the ancient world. The priests sharpened their accusations. Even his disciples were confused. But later, in the safety of the private circle, Jesus explained. He wasn't speaking of stone walls. He was speaking of his body. And not only his, yours as well. Pause and let this sink in. Your body, with all its wrinkles, aches, weaknesses, and scars, is the holiest sanctuary in the entire cosmos. Not the soaring cathedrals of Europe, not the gilded shrines of Jerusalem, but you. Every cell of your being vibrates with the frequency of creation. Every breath is the Spirit of God moving through you. Every heartbeat is the rhythm of the universe pulsing in your chest. Place both hands on your heart. Feel it now. That steady beat is not just biology. It is the divine drumming through your flesh, a sacred song echoing eternity. Do you see why this truth was too dangerous to say aloud? If every person believed their body was a temple, who would need the priests? Who would need sacrificial systems or elaborate rituals? The entire structure of religious control would collapse overnight. That is why Jesus could only whisper this secret in the hidden circle. But you are hearing it. Now think of how you've seen your body in the past. How many times have you hated it because it wasn't good enough? How many times have you cursed it for growing old? How many times have you treated its desires, its weaknesses, as enemies of holiness? But what if all along your body was never the enemy? What if your body was the doorway? Jesus didn't teach escape from the body. He taught transfiguration through the body. He wasn't pointing to transcendence beyond flesh, but to sanctification within it until matter itself shines with spirit. This turns everything upside down. It means your body is not something to despise, but to honor. It means aging does not strip away your value, but marks your temple with sacred lines of experience. It means even in sickness or pain, your body remains holy, because holiness is not something it loses. It is something it already carries. What would change if you truly believe this? Imagine waking each morning and seeing not a failing vessel, but a radiant temple. Imagine treating every ache not as betrayal, but as a reminder that God breathes through you. Imagine touching your wrinkles and seeing them not as decay, but as sacred etchings of a life lived fully. Do you feel the freedom hidden in this? No more shame. No more self-hatred. No more believing you must escape the body to find God. You are already living in the sanctuary. This was the secret Jesus entrusted to the inner circle. You are not trapped in a body. You are blessed with a temple. He knew that once his disciples grasped this, they would never again see themselves or others the same way. And you, if you are hearing these words now, are invited into that same transformation. Whisper it to yourself now. I am the temple of the living God. Let the words settle into your bones. They are not wishful thinking. They are the very truth Jesus risked everything to declare. When you live as a temple, the shame falls away. You no longer need to measure up to an image of perfection. You already house the divine. And once you see yourself that way, you will see others that way too. Every person you meet becomes a holy sanctuary, a walking temple of God. Can you imagine a world where we all live this truth? Where no one was treated as less than because every body was sacred ground. Where age, weakness, scars, and even death were not reasons for despair, but reminders of divine presence woven through flesh. That is the revolution Jesus whispered by firelight 2,000 years ago. And now, that same secret burns in you. Part 5. The secret of direct access to God. Do you remember the first time you walked into a great cathedral? Perhaps it was a towering structure in Europe, with stained glass windows glowing in colored light. You sat on the wooden pews, gazed at the distant altar, and silently wondered, am I close enough for God to hear me? Am I worthy enough for Him to notice me? For centuries, countless generations were taught the same idea, that access to God required a mediator. You needed a priest to forgive you. You needed a sacrifice to atone for you. You needed rituals and systems to allow you into God's presence. The result? Millions of people lived their whole lives feeling distant from the one who gave them breath. But one night, when only the inner circle sat around a flickering fire, Jesus whispered a secret so dangerous it could never be spoken aloud in the temple courts. You need no one to teach you. The anointing you have received abides in you, and it teaches you all things. Pause and feel the weight of those words. Jesus was telling them, you don't need a mediator. You don't need a gatekeeper. The Spirit has already been placed within you, and that Spirit will guide you directly. Can you see why this was the most threatening truth of all? If people believed they could commune with God directly, the whole religious machine would collapse. No temple taxes. No endless sacrifices. No priestly monopoly over God's presence. The chains of fear would snap in an instant. And this is why Jesus saved this secret for the private circle. Think about your own life. How many times have you prayed and felt unheard? How many times did you walk away thinking, maybe I don't have enough faith? Maybe God doesn't listen to me. But what if the truth is this? You were never far from Him. What if, in every moment, His presence has been pulsing inside you, closer than your own breath? The word Jesus used for this kind of knowing was gnosis. Not second-hand belief. Not memorized doctrine. Not repeating creeds you only half understand. But direct knowing. The same way you know the warmth of sunlight when it touches your skin. The same way you know the taste of water on your tongue. Immediate, undeniable, experiential. And this is what He wanted His disciples to claim. Freedom. You do not need saving from God, because you were never separated from Him. You do not need permission to enter His presence, because you have never left it. You do not need another human being to speak on your behalf, because God's Spirit is already speaking within you. Close your eyes for 10 seconds. Step behind your thoughts. Notice the silent awareness that is watching even your thinking. That awareness is not separate from God. It is the direct access Jesus died to reveal. This is why He said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Not someday, not after endless rituals, but now, through direct knowing. And this cuts to the deepest pain many of us carry. Perhaps you've lived your whole life thinking you aren't good enough, that you must try harder, pray longer, sin less, perform more, before God might accept you. And every time you failed, you felt the distance grow. But the secret is, the distance was always an illusion. The truth is, you and God have never been apart. That's why this teaching was called heresy by those in power. Because once you know this, no one can control you with fear anymore. No one can tell you that you need them to reach God. You become sovereign in your connection. You become free. Imagine the power of living this truth. If you knew that every decision you made could be guided directly by the Spirit within, would you still be afraid? If you knew that God was not far off, but as close as your breath, would you still feel unworthy? Jesus didn't come to create a religion of dependence. He came to awaken sons and daughters who could hear for themselves. Not servants waiting for orders, but friends walking side by side. Now place your hand on your heart right now and whisper, I am directly connected. I am not far. God lives in me, and I live in him. That is not just a mantra. It is the truth he risked everything to entrust to the circle. And if you let it sink deep, it will change the way you see yourself, the way you pray, the way you live. This was the third secret whispered in the night. You need no mediator. You already have direct access. Part 6. The secret of resurrection in this life. Be honest with yourself. What is your deepest fear? For many, it isn't just the moment the heart stops beating. It's the thought of disappearing forever. The fear that everything you've loved, every memory you've carried, will be lost. That your very existence will dissolve into nothing. This silent fear shadows us all, and it grows louder with age. As the body weakens, as friends pass away, as time reminds us of our limits, the shadow of mortality feels closer than ever. Traditional religion often offers comfort. One day, after death, if you are worthy, you will be raised again. But deep down, you may still tremble, because that hope is placed in a distant, uncertain future. And this is where Jesus shattered the illusion. To his inner circle, he whispered a truth so daring it could never be spoken in public. Resurrection is not just for the afterlife. Resurrection begins now, in this body, in this breath. He declared, I am the resurrection and the life. To the crowds, it sounded like a mysterious promise about the future. But in the circle of firelight, he explained, resurrection is a state of consciousness you can awaken here and now. It is not about waiting until death. It is about igniting the light body while you are still alive. Jesus revealed this when he said, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. Matthew 6:22. This was not just moral advice. It was the blueprint of transfiguration. When the single eye of inner vision opens, the entire body becomes a vessel of light. Flesh itself vibrates with the frequency of spirit. Imagine living in such a state, not trapped in a failing body, but radiating light through it. Imagine your very presence shining so brightly that others can feel it. This is not poetry. This is what Jesus lived, and what he promised his disciples they could live as well. Think about his so-called miracles, walking on water, multiplying bread and fish, appearing and disappearing. These were not magic tricks. They were the natural expressions of a consciousness fully awakened to resurrection life. And he said, greater works than these you will do. Do you see the freedom hidden here? It means that what you fear most, death, is not the final enemy. It means you don't have to wait until you die to experience resurrection. You can live it now. Pause and try this. Close your eyes. Place your awareness gently on the space between your eyebrows. Breathe deeply, slowly. As you exhale, notice if a subtle sense of light or warmth arises within you. That is not imagination. That is the doorway to the resurrection body. That is the secret Jesus entrusted to his inner circle. This truth reaches into the very heart of your pain. How many times have you felt dead inside while still breathing? perhaps after a betrayal, a devastating loss, or a dream that crumbled. You kept moving, but inside, the flame was gone. Right there, in that place of despair, is where resurrection begins. It is not about escaping the body or the world. It is about igniting life again within what felt lifeless. Jesus didn't come only to prove that one man could rise after 3 days in the tomb. He came to show that every human being carries within them the same potential for resurrection. Not someday, not later, but here and now. And that is why he told his disciples, "You will do greater works than these." Imagine how differently you would live if you believed this. Would you still fear aging? Would you still see illness only as decay? Would you still see death as the end? Or would you walk through life already radiant with the light of resurrection, unafraid of what lies beyond, because you are already living eternal life now? Whisper these words to yourself. I am the resurrection. I am the life. Say them slowly. Let them sink into your bones. This is not just repetition. It is the truth of who you are, because resurrection does not wait for the grave. Resurrection begins the moment you awaken to who you truly are. Part 7. The Final Prophecy. Not servants but friends, co-creators imagine the final night Jesus sat with his inner circle before history turned dark with betrayal and violence. The air was heavy. Silence pressed down like a weight. Everyone felt that something irreversible was about to happen. And then, in that sacred moment, Jesus spoke words that shattered every boundary religion had ever built. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything I learned from my Father I have made known to you. Let that echo inside you. In a world divided into rulers and ruled, priests and commoners, holy and unholy, Jesus tore the hierarchy apart. He did not look at his disciples as slaves trembling before their master. He looked at them as equals, as friends, as co-creators. Do you realize how dangerous that was? If people believed they were no longer mere servants, but partners with God, the entire religious power structure would collapse. No more elites standing above, no more masses kneeling below. Instead, one circle, every soul ablaze with the same divine fire. And that was his final prophecy. He did not come to create worshipers. He came to awaken Christs. He did not want followers bound by fear. He wanted friends empowered by light. Think about your own life. How many times have you felt small, unworthy, not good enough? How many times have you believed you were only an observer, standing outside while others carried the flame? But listen, what Jesus whispered in the night was for you too. You are not a servant. You are my friend. This changes everything. It means you do not have to wait for a second coming in the sky. You are the second coming when you allow the Christ within you to awaken. It means you are not here to watch history unfold. You are here to shape it. It means you are not just a believer. You are a bearer of the same light that burned in him 2,000 years ago. He planted a seed, not a doctrine, not an institution, but a seed of Christ consciousness within the human heart. And now that seed is blooming not in one man descending from clouds, but in millions of souls rising in awareness. You are one of them. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the fire that has been flickering through every word you've heard in this journey. Whisper it now. I am the light. I am not a servant. I am a friend. I walk as a co-creator with God. When you say this, you are not reciting poetry. You are stepping into the identity Jesus gave his closest circle. You are sealing the prophecy into your own life. Imagine a world where millions live this way, each person no longer seeing themselves as powerless, but as friends of Christ, equals in divine partnership. No one above, no one below. Every human a temple, every soul a light. That is the real second coming, And here is the secret. It is already happening. Through you, in you, as you. Jesus never wanted a religion of spectators. He wanted a movement of awakened souls. And now he leans toward you, just as he did around the fire long ago, and says, I call you friend. So what will you do with this flame? Hide it, or lift it high to light the way for others? Conclusion. The final flame. You are the return. You have walked through 7 secrets. One by one, the veils have been lifted. What was once whispered in darkness 2,000 years ago has now reached your heart. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel that you are not the same person who began this journey. You have changed. From the very beginning, you were invited to leave the crowd and step into the inner circle. You heard words never meant for the masses. You learned that the kingdom is not far away, it is within you. You discovered that your body is not a burden, but a living temple. You were told you need no mediator, for you already have direct access. You touched the reality of resurrection in this life. And finally, you received the prophecy that you are not a servant, but a friend, a co-creator with Christ. This is not just knowledge to remember. This is fire to live by. Look honestly at the world. Fear, war, injustice, sickness, and aging still surround us. But now you know the secret. The light you have been waiting for does not come from outside. It rises from within you. And when you allow it to shine, the darkness has no choice but to vanish. Perhaps all your life you've thought you were too small, too ordinary, too unworthy. But hear the whisper again. You will do greater works than these. You are not a bystander in God's story. You are the story. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. Ask yourself, if I truly believe the kingdom is within me, how would I live? If I saw my body as a temple, how would I treat it? If I trusted my direct access to God, how boldly would I pray? If I carried resurrection now, how would I face aging, sickness, even death? And if I walked as a friend of Christ, how brightly would I shine? The answers will not just change your thoughts. They will transform your life. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the beat. That rhythm is not just your blood, it is eternity pulsing in your chest. Whisper now, I am the light. I am the temple. I am directly connected. I am the resurrection. I am the friend of Christ. Every time you say this, you are not merely repeating words. You are igniting the secret Jesus entrusted to his circle. You are stepping into your true identity. And remember this, the second coming is not a single figure descending from the clouds. The second coming is millions of souls awakening at once. The return of Christ is not only for the future, it is happening now. Through you, in you, as you. Do not treat this as just another message you heard and then set aside. This is initiation. This is a beginning. You have crossed the threshold the crowds never saw. And now the flame has been placed in your hands. The only question left is, what will you do with it? You can keep it hidden, or you can lift it high and let it burn for others still searching in the dark. Remember, no flame is too small. Together, countless flames create a wildfire of awakening. And you are proof that the prophecy has already begun. You are no longer a seeker. You are a finder. You are no longer a servant. You are a friend. You are no longer just a believer. You are the light. So walk into the world carrying this truth. You have always carried the Christ flame within. You are the return humanity has been waiting for. You are the sign that the light never died. It only needed someone brave enough to let it shine again. Say it one more time. From the deepest place in your being, I recognize the Christ within me. I live as the light. I am not waiting for the return. The return is happening in me, through me, as me. I am the hope of the world. I am the proof of eternal love. I am the flame that never goes out. And as you step forward with these words, know this: you are not alone. The circle is expanding. The hidden ones are finding each other. And the return is unfolding now, in this generation, in this very moment, in you. You have finished the journey. And yet, the true journey has only just begun.